What's up, YouTube? Eddie Gray here. It is a brand new day, and you know what that means. We're on page 545 in the Logic Pro User Guide. This tutorial is brought to you by hfmusicacademy.com, and our primary aim is to show you the program in and out. Now, it's not just the program in and of itself. You have to understand that there is a psychology that comes behind it. If you want to learn it well and you want to be the very best at it, then I suggest you stay tuned. You ready? Here we go. You guys ready? Hey, happy Wednesday. I'm feeling real good today. Feeling really present, really alive. I hope you are too. We are going to have some fun. We're talking about mixing within Logic Pro. We're going to learn about the channel strip, panning, all sorts of good stuff. Stay tuned. Go ahead and sub. All right. Here we go. You got to build that energy up, guys. Build it up. Let's go! Let's go. If you ever get tired, if you ever get busy, do me a favor, my busy bees. Take a moment, shed all the skin, and start anew. This is what the whole thing is all about, right? You have a tough session, you have a tough day, you come back to the drawing board, you come back to the dojo, the place of learning, and you learn from your sensei, not from somebody that knows more than you, not from somebody who claims to know more than you, but just somebody who has come before you. All right. And my intention here is to get you clear on the program. So in order to be able to create that kind of space, I obviously have to show up and be present for you. So let's get into it. Feeling really good. And I want to talk about the channel strips, but specifically I want to get into panning and when I would use stereo pan and when I would use balance. Now, I teach a lot of this stuff over at hfmusicacademy.com. We have diagrams, we have sessions that we offer you, we have in-depth tutorials, but I just want to give you a good sense of what this looks and feels like. So let's get into the user guide. Follow along. The best way to do this clearly is to be able to utilize either one space and move back and forth between this session right here that's happening and then of course another session of Logic. Or you have a separate desktop, laptop situation or two laptops, however you want to do it. It's fine with me. All right. So anything you need, let me know. Questions I'll be taking if they're applicable. And let's go. Without further ado, let's do this. So we're getting into the channel strips. I pulled up a session that I thought would be really helpful. Now, even though I have my stereo settings on within the Zoom platform, I don't know if it's going to work out that way. So you should really try some of these yourself. I'll be giving you the name of the loops that we're going to be using. But essentially, we're talking about the channel strips. And we understand that there are mono channel strips. We know that there are stereo channel strips. And those are indicated by the input format button. So when you create a track, you're actually, well, it's better stated this way. When you're creating a track, you are in fact creating a channel strip, and that channel strip can be mono, stereo, just the left channel strip, just the right, and then surround sound if applicable. So we know that when we are thinking about imaging and panning, that the sounds that are going to be closest to the middle or the center, these are usually the ones that are going to stand out. Let's think about these like the main role players or the main actors in a movie. Okay, so if you want to pan stuff off to the side, generally speaking, these are things that probably don't matter as much. Hand claps, percussion, right? Maybe some synthesizers that are not the main melody, right? Maybe things like that, just not as important. Okay, so when we start thinking about pan, we can't have that conversation without thinking about the channel strip as well. So we also covered the fact that you can have a very kind of contradictory thing, but it's true. You can have a channel strip that's in mono and a source sound that is in stereo. You can have a stereo source sound and have that kind of funneled into a mono channel strip. So all of this has to be taken into account. I go over some pretty solid examples in the last video. And so then when we get into this next phase, we really want to learn the application. Sure, I understand pan is a much easier and a standardized version of what true panning or stereo panning is, right? I understand that you can do more with stereo pan. But still, I would like to know the difference between balance and stereo pan and give me some ideas. When would it actually work, right? This is why I'm voting Edgar Rothermick to update the Logic User Guide, because he would give some super solid examples. If you haven't checked out his work already, please check him out. GEM Manuals. HF Music Academy is the official proofreader for his Pro Tools book. And alongside that, you're going to want to check out his YouTube channel, which is really awesome as well. Okay, so we are moving on, and I have some examples ready for you, all right? Just because I love you, just because I know you guys are subbing, just because I know you guys are sharing and just, always promoting, I'm looking at the numbers go up. So it's not me doing it. I know it's you guys. So much love, much respect. All right, so look, we are on track number 5 and 6. Now I want to make this clear. The sound source itself is stereo. What does this mean? When it was recorded, there were 2 microphones in existence, right? Their positioning, I don't know. Their proximity, I don't know. But there were 2 microphones. All right, now how do I know this? Well, really, it's a twofold answer. I can look at the goniometer in Logic Pro. This is the multimeter, okay? And then second, I look at the channel strip itself. And we'll investigate further as we go along here. I'm going to hit Command U to create a cycle region around this specific region. I'll hit play, and I want you to look not only at the channel strip, but also at the goniometer. Okay, so I'm not sure how this is translating because of this platform, but here's the deal. If you go into the Loop browser, key Command O, you will find, I hope, yes, new dimension topper. So I'm going to need you to do me a massive favor and grab that and drag it into an empty session. Now, when you do, again, we've stated this is a stereo source. When you create an audio track, you have the opportunity to change this into either a mono source or a stereo source. What determines this behavior, Eddie Gray? Well, if you open up your preferences and you assign the appropriate interface, that's going to change the name of the game. You don't believe me? Well, if I have the audio on here and I look at my inputs, I literally just have 1 and 2 and then the stereo pair, 1 and 2. So 1 is just mono, 2 is just mono, and this is stereo. So that's all I have available. You also conversely could choose no input. But if I click on this button right here, this will take me to my inputs and outputs, perhaps the setting that you will change the most alongside your latency settings. And then from there, my good friends, all we have to do is hit input device and change to the appropriate interface. I have universal audio, right? And so then when I apply these settings, stand by. Very cool. What do we find here? Now, when we go into our inputs, the game has officially changed. Eddie Gray is back in it again. Hope you guys are enjoying the Logic User Guide. Let's keep this going. Let's stay up. We're on page 545. We've been doing this for weeks now, and we will continue until we get to the very end. All right, So then now we have a bunch of inputs and outputs. Now, I have a couple of interfaces, so I have 60 inputs, right? Now, if we look at the stereo pairing, it looks a little bit different, right? So it all depends what that configuration is. So to go back, now I can select the format, right? This is called the input format button. So I can decide, will this continue to be stereo? Look at the goniometer. And how do I know it's stereo? Well, I know it's stereo because it moves in a kind of circular fashion. It starts off down the middle. That's probably where all the low end is. And then when I hear that clave that's on the left channel, I can see it clearly in this diagonal plane. Listen and watch. Okay, so let's run some experiments, shall we? So then I'm going to take into account the fact that I'm inside of balance panning because this influences the auditory behavior. So then when I click and hold here and I convert this or collapse into mono, look at the goniometer, friends. Let's go! So what ends up happening is this stereo source has now been converted to mono. And why do I get pumped up about it? Because it wasn't always like this. We weren't always doing this. We weren't always making money, making music online. And I'm just so stoked and lit about it that it's a possibility. Just this morning, we got some new briefs over at hfmusicacademy.com. $950, $1,500. So many opportunities are available to you. So the first thing you have to do is learn the DAW. The second thing you have to do is learn how to mix and master. The third thing you have to do is learn the business. And then you are a triple threat, my good friend. Let's go. All right. So we collapsed it into mono. Hooray. That's not the end of it. If we wanted to, we can actually reconvert, if you will, back into stereo. And there's different ways to do this. Now, by the way, you don't have to utilize the input format button to collapse to mono. If you wish, you can also utilize a gain plugin. Now, let's see if this selects the appropriate gain. No, this is going to select the one by, okay. So I've been working on this. I think I'm going to get rid of that plugin because I'm always looking for my gain in the Logic stock one, simply because it does allow me to convert to mono. Now everything is okay. This went haywire. I'm using a plugin called Plug Search, and sometimes it does funny things. Okay, let's go old school here and let's scroll utility. Roger that. Let's gain. Okay, so here's the Logic stock plugin. Really nice. You can swap the channels if you'd like. You can collapse it into mono, use the phase in for really good. Okay, so I'm gonna collapse it into mono here. Look at the goniometer. You ready? So before. So, Eddie, I understand your point. Thank you for showing me the diagrams. I appreciate your enthusiasm on this fine Wednesday. But what is the purpose? When should I use when? Give me some more psychology behind the approach, the ideas. Okay, so if your mix is already really busy, you're not going to want to add more stereo elements. This is where collapsing to mono would help drastically because you're adding a rhythmic component without necessarily getting in the way of the stereo image, right? So that's one. Two, the song is already very simple and grounded in the rhythm section, and then you think, wow, it really needs something to kind of move the song, and so I don't get bored. This is when a mono source would apply. Now, if I swap, whatever's on the left channel goes to the right, and the same applies for the other side. So let's swap this and hear the clave now on the right-hand side, or whatever that little ping sound is. Here we go. So, Eddie, are you telling me that if I had a hi-hat on the left channel, then it would be great to swap the channels of this specific sound source because the clave is on the right, so it's out of the way of the hi-hats that were on the left side? Yes, I am saying that. Good call. I love it. I'm glad that we're on the same page, amigo and amiga. So that makes sense. Cool. Yeah, this all works. Okay, good. So That's not enough though, because if we start to pan, then things shift a little bit, don't they? Because now we're taking the two channels, the ping on the left and all the rest of the stuff that's on the right, and we are highlighting just one of the channels. So if I may draw in my Picasso-esque manner, pretend this is one channel, pretend that's another channel. When I pan to the left, we're not hearing this channel anymore. Okay? When you're utilizing this form of panning called balance panning, when you pan to the left, you're only listening to the left channel. Of course, if I were to pan to the right, what happens? But we're now listening mostly to the right channel. So this left channel will not be audible. So that's happening here. So again, we'll corroborate. This is balance panning. When I pan to the right, that ping that you're listening to on the left channel will be greatly diminished, if not completely removed. Here we go. This, my friends, is not a magic show. Please remember that this is just engineering, and we're breaking down everything to its most basic component. So we didn't hear the clave or the ping anymore because, again, we're using balance panning. If I pan to the left, the opposite's going to happen. Okay, let's wrap up this conversation and get into more because I'm lit up and I'm ready to digest more information. Okay, I thought I knew this program. Been studying it for 7 years, Apple Certified T3, been working with Apple through LearnQuest, been doing so many different things, and I feel like I'm just getting started, in all fairness. All right, so when I access stereo panning, how am I doing that? I'm control clicking the actual channel strip, just like that, okay? All right, now the graphics look a little bit different, don't they? Graphics look a little bit different. So what's happening here, if I may go back to my incredible illustrations, is that we have two channel strips. That's right, two of them, okay? And when we maneuver this true panning or stereo panning over to the left, rather than eliminating the right channel strip, we're actually adding this on top of this one, so it becomes one channel strip. So we're hearing all of the information on one side rather than omitting. We're not getting rid of anything anymore. We now have full control over the stereo imaging of this project. This is why it's so powerful. This is why you need both, because it allows you to execute at a whole nother level. So now we're going to take another listen. I'm going to take that ping, and originally while using balance panning, I tried this methodology and we got rid of the ping. It was no longer audible. But what happens here, my good friends, is that when I pan this version of panning called stereo pan, what happens is that we can now listen to the information on the left channel strip and we're hearing it on the right channel. So the ping that you currently hear on the left channel, listen now. And again, if you're not hearing it because of Zoom, do me a favor, go into your session and check out new dimension topper. All right, this is the information here. And now when I swing this over to the right, what's going to happen is we're going to hear that ping on the right channel. You ready? Here we go. So regardless if you're listening to this in stereo or not, I'm not even sure if you are, but it doesn't matter because now you have seen what the process looks like. I've given you a sound source so you can examine this on your own. The idea here is to empower you and give you the tools and the understanding that other people simply won't do. Whether it's for a lack of time or a lack of organization or whatever it is, we're here to help you and we're here to support. Okay. I'm going to continue on. If you have any questions, please let me know. You can always hit up my team also at support@hfmusicacademy.com. All right, so we've talked about stereo pan. We've talked about balance. We've talked about the mono channel strips, the stereo channel strip. What we have not covered at all is the fact that when you use stereo pan, you can actually adjust the stereo spread. Now, what this does, it allows you to control both channels. You have to drag the white handles over to the right or left to be able to maneuver this. I'm going to give you a very, very clear view of this in 1 second. Let's read a little bit more. Let's say you want to narrow the stereo field. Sometimes you don't need as much information within the song's image. Then again, you can drag the white handle of the left channel closer to the center, right? Because we don't need that much information on the left channel. To invert, we've talked about this extensively. Command click, we're good to go. You'll notice that the color of the ring, the appropriate term being the signal ring, changes from green to orange, and then back again if you click it. If we want to narrow or widen the stereo range, you can do this by dragging the green or orange ring vertically. So I have to show you what that looks like. And then to adjust the center position, drag the center of the stereo pan knob vertically. To reset, you can option click and get back to normal. When a channel strip output is set to surround, the knob is replaced by a surround control. Okay, let me show you what we're talking about. So I have a really nice view here in Zoom that allows me to share. Hold on, why isn't it doing it? Boom. A portion of my screen. So this will give you a heads up into what I'm talking about. All right. How's it going, guys? Eddie Gray reading the Logic User Guide. Welcome to the channel. If you're appreciating what we're doing here, what the purpose, what the plan is, please go ahead and sub, go ahead and share. We're building the channel. We're watching it grow day by day, week by week. So thank you very much for the support. All right. So we're looking at the channel strip. I understand the layout because Eddie Gray showed me the last 2 videos, kind of how all of this is constructed. So in my mind, in my eyes, I can see the channel strip. I can see and understand the mixer. I understand its basic architecture. Now what, Eddie? Okay, well, here's the deal. When we want to play with the spread, we can move the right channel over to the left, or if I then hover over to the left portion of this channel, and you'll see a small white line, it's like almost like a handle, if you will. I can drag this over to the right. So that's how you would control the spread. Now, if you wanted to kind of narrow the image, you could click atop this stereo pan and hold as you drag up. So click, hold, and drag up. And look what's happening here. I'm eliminating all of that width so that both source sounds are now down the middle. Of course, that is called mono. And look, don't believe me, okay? We have to always corroborate. You know, I have a lot to learn here. I've already said this 100 times. I'm a student first. So let's always have a friendly conversation about how much closer and tighter can we get. There's so much misinformation going on that it's very important to have these kinds of conversations. Roger that. I'll never forget one of the biggest channels out there. They were referring to the tracks area as the arrangement area, and that's just not what we do. Okay, let's address this the way it needs to be addressed. Let's have respect and let's honor the program. So I'll press play here. All right, and then as I play with the channel strip, you're going to kind of see the goniometer and the way that it's influenced. In order for you to be able to really see this, I have to go back to our last view. Let me do that now. Okay, so you're looking, nope. Let me move myself out of the way. I think this is the way we're going to do it. Sweet. Okay, so we're back here. Again, we have the full stereo spread. Take a look and take a listen. Okay, I will collapse that to mono, bring it in. So that all occurred inside of stereo panning. Again, let's say maybe I like the idea, but I just don't need as much information to be spread out. Look at the signal. Sure, it's more mono than before, but it's not quite down the middle. There's still a little bit of spread. Here, you will find that to be true even more. And then, of course, when we open it up all the way, we're back to square one. All right, my good friends, I hope you appreciate that information. That is kind of the end of that conversation. There's more there, but generally speaking, you have exactly what you need. And as soon as you have your aha moment, do me a favor, come back to the channel and then just comment. Man, I really heard that. I didn't know that was possible. It is a game changer. What amazes me the most about this fine feature is the fact that it's fairly new. We just started implementing this. I think it was 10.43. I forget the version exactly, but this you would think has been around for the last 100 years or something. But yeah, it's a fairly new feature to Logic Pro. All right, we're talking about muting channel strips. So we have done this and more. So unless I see something worth your time, we are going to keep going through page 547. We know what happens when we mute or solo tracks. I guess something that is worth mentioning that's kind of random and I know can help. Let's say you're in the all mixer tab, as you may have remembered from our last session. And let's say you solo something, maybe an aux track. Why don't I just create one really quick? And so let's say we solo this. I don't know, maybe you want to listen to, and then I close the mixer. And of course, I'm in the zone. I'm not really thinking about the track and what's happening here. Well, what's fascinating? Hold on, why did it do that? That's so fast. That's interesting. What's interesting here is that let me hide these so we're not confusing anybody. You can see that the tracks area looks somewhat normal, but to the refined eye, to the trained eye, we find some evidence that leads us to believe that something else is happening. What do I see? What do you see? All right, well, what I see is that the LCD screen at the top of the control bar here is in yellow. So that right there tells me something is different. Okay, something is going on. How do I know? Here, let me just see how it normally by default is in that blue shade. Okay, on top of that, the second key thing to note is that some of these channel strips are highlighted in blue. See how this M is being highlighted? Look at this one. This one too is highlighted, but it's the S that's kind of, going nuts over there. This one also is an M, that one's an M, and that one's an M. Well, why is this one in S? Well, let's find out. We come to find that this track has bus 18 contained within it, and bus 18 is in fact the culprit, the one that's actually soloed. So had I not gone through that process of elimination, I would not know that bus 18 auxiliary 1 is soloed. Now, another thing you could do, in all fairness, let's say the same move was done, you're in the same position, you could also clear and recall the last solo position. So I'll hit the key command for that, Control, Option, Command S. All right, and then now we're stable, we're back to normal. But notice that my thought process immediately went to the LCD. All right, that's what I want for you. I've been saying this over and over again, and I'll continue to the end. Workflow, workflow, workflow. This is what we have to improve on. All right, I want you to be clear while you're working. I want you to feel at ease, right? For the first time ever, relaxed while you work, happy while you work. I don't see enough of this, right? I just got, in fact, here, you guys think I'm going off on this subject. Hold on. I just got a YouTube comment literally right before we had a class over at HF Music Academy. Look, it's not playing. No, hold on. Come on, can you do it? Okay, all right, go to the comment section. I had a gentleman here. Logic is so frustrating, right? Oh man, I was working and then I cut this part, I deleted it. The odd thing is that it doesn't always happen and only every now and then. So this right here is a very common cause of not understanding the subject matter. You don't have to, right? I don't care, but don't blame it on the engineering, because the engineering is absolutely pristine. I'm telling you guys right now, top to bottom, this program is money. And the fact that it costs what it costs, very affordable, and you get so much, it's definitely the best DAW for the money. No one can argue that. Go try and buy Ableton. It's like above $700 if you want the master suite version. Go try and get Cubase. Same thing. You're not going to find the quality with any product for what it's worth. Okay, so yeah. Finally, I was explaining some things and why this is happening. But yeah, don't blame it on the program. The program is there. Are there bugs? Sure. Are there things that need to be updated? Of course, right? With any program. But I just want to make sure that we honor this incredible program. It's absolutely changed the course of my life and everything about it. And so I want to make sure that that we stand up for it and we represent it well. My name is Eddie Gray. For just tuning in, we're reading the Logic User Guide. We've been doing this for weeks now. If you want to go ahead and support, hit the notification bell. We would highly appreciate your support. All right, I want to get back in. There's so much more to do. Let's go. So yeah, soloing tracks, all of this is very easy. How do I solo a channel strip when something else is already soloed? So yeah, this is actually a very good topic. Now, for example, if I solo track number 1 and then I solo track number 2, what happens is I start to aggregate 3, 4, track after track. Now, what if I just wanted to solo one track, right? One channel strip. If I hold Option, and you can see the corresponding key command there, I could then literally just isolate one track, right? So I've got track number 3 selected. I'm going to solo number 1 now. Option, click. Let's do the same for track number 6. Option, click. All right. If I then want to create a selection between, let's say I select all of these and I want to deselect one of them, then you would just click. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to eliminate them all at the same time? We can hit clear and recall solo. And of course, we could just click and slide on down, and that will also bring us back. The same goes for mute. Okay, solo safe. What does that mean? Okay, if I control click an inactive solo button like so, see how there's a red line that's slashing through the S now, right? S for solo. What does this mean? If you initiate this, you are using something called solo safe. The channel strip does not mute when you solo another channel strip. Of course, if you control click it again, then you're going to deactivate this move. Now, why is this important? Well, let's say you have a vocal that you always want to hear when you're mixing the bass, when you're mixing the overheads, when you're mixing the room, whatever it is. You don't have to worry about always having to consider it when you're soloing. It's just going to play regardless. And I'll show you what I mean. Right now it's in solo safe mode, right? And if I press play, you're still going to hear it regardless if something else is soloed, like this one here, which is silence. It's still playing regardless of what else is going on. Cool. All right, so that's called solo safe. Let's keep doing it. We're working with plugins now. Page 548. Can you believe it? Wild, right? All right. So we know, again, back to my previous point, Logic has so many great built-in effects and quality effects as well. Of course, that we're going to support the AU format within third-party plugins. Think Leapwing Audio. Think Fab Filter, think any of these great companies out there. All right. Eventide. Logic Pro also includes a plugin manager. And this is what we're going to use to truly make the most of your organization within Logic Pro. Now, we know that we can break down all plugins into 4 essential categories within Logic Pro. I'm not talking about, like spatial processing or dynamic processing. That's kind of in the world of effects. But now what we're covering and looking at closely is how do we define these inside of the program? Well, we have audio effects. Now, these can be inserted into the following: audio, instrument, meaning software instrument, meaning MIDI, auxes, which are your buses and your track stacks and such, and then the output, or what I would consider to be the master in Logic Pro. Now, this is going to utilize something called DSP, otherwise known as digital signal processing. And depending on the plugin, they all kind of take a little bit of juice, or some of them are very CPU hungry. All right, so if that's the case, then we're going to have to find ways to process them individually. Perhaps we can bounce, perhaps we can freeze. And if you want more information on that, check out my free course, How to Maximize Your Desktop and Laptop's CPU Performance. Currently over 4,500 downloads to date. You can check it out at hfmusicacademy.com. All right, MIDI effects. So then now, besides audio effects, we also have fairly new category, not too new, but new enough, called MIDI effects. And this can only be utilized inside of instrument channel strips, software instruments. All right, and why is this important? Well, in the past, we could only use something called the environment within Logic. Now, if you've ever seen Inception or you ever checked out any one of those Matrix movies, then the environment was like a hologram, some alternate reality of Logic. So we no longer necessarily have to work through it and with it. You can still. It's available for all the major programmers out there, but for the rest of us that just want to work on a bit more of a surface level, we have MIDI effects, and they are outstanding, easy to use, and sound incredible. Software instruments. Okay, so then now we understand that we can utilize synthesizers, a sampler, and really there are a couple of samplers, but simulations or authentic recreations of vintage instruments. All right, cool. And then of course we have GarageBand instruments, right? Software instruments. So these can only be accessed within the legacy collection. Now, how do we find these? You want to make sure that you hold Option while you're selecting an instrument, and you will then go to a submenu called Legacy. So I bet you didn't know that. You go into Software. We got a new video coming out on Satellite Sessions. Check it out, guys. It's coming soon. Go ahead and sub for new content. So we're here, and then I hold Option, and if we bring it down a bit, we can access, this list is getting long. Let's go to Legacy, and here we have a whole bunch of different instruments. So these are all for or from within GarageBand. Okay, 549. How do we add, move, copy plugs? Well, with Note Repeat, with MIDI effects, you want to go into the MIDI effects plugin, okay? And then, so we're here, and we talked about the channel strip and how it's broken up in its constitution. So we'll notice a category here called MIDI effects. I will click on it, and I will select, let's do the arpeggiator to start. If I then want to instantiate a plugin below that, I hover over the bottom. Then it kind of lights up. There's a bit of a shaded quality. I'll click again, and then I'll add, let's say, a modulator. All right, so then now I'm starting to add one on top of the other. The same goes for an unoccupied space atop the plugins. So I've already used up my insert 1 and 2. Well, if I wanted to move these over to slot 2 and 3, if I hover over the very topmost portion of the audio or MIDI effects inserts, and then I instantiate, let's say, a modifier, That's how we get that to supersede the previous plugins. So that's pretty cool. Digging that. Page 550, Eddie Gray reading the Logic User Guide. Plugins will display the plugin menu, which looks like this. It's kind of a pop-up menu. If you do want to access your legacy plugins, you can do that as well. Since I already showed you how to do it, I'm going to continue moving on. But when we do talk about instruments, this really is the same thing, and we can access those legacy plugins in the same manner. This I think I will show you. So again, I option click the instrument tab. I'm still holding option. I don't know if you have to keep doing that. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing. And then I hover down to legacy, and boom, you have all sorts of stuff available to you here. Okay. There was something else I wanted to tell you. Yeah, if you want to replace that, you literally click on the right side of the plugin. So, let me see, how do I want to say this? As far as the construction of the plugin goes, if I may start drawing here, it's really broken up into three parts. The on and off button, or the bypass button. You have the middle portion, which allows you to instantiate the GUI, which allows you to look at the actual plugin and then not necessarily turn it off, but get it away from the screen. So it allows me to visually see it and then close it. There are also key commands for that. And finally, on the right-hand side, you have the up and down arrow menu, which allow me to select no plugin or to quite literally replace a plugin. So let's say I have Alchemy instantiated and I want to use something like Arcade, which is a beast of a plugin if you haven't heard it. There we go. So then we see that we have replaced it in effect. We can check all the stuff out later. More content coming soon. Go ahead and sub. Cool. So it's 551. We now know how to replace plugins. That's all easy breezy. There's the no plugin option there, which most of us know, but if you don't use plug search, I highly recommend it by Speaker Food. If I hit the key command control, look at what happens. I'm going to do it in 3, 2, 1. It literally just removed a plugin for me, just like that. If I hit the same key command while nothing is instantiated, it pulls up is this kind of FA plugin manager thing. And again, it usually works really well, but I updated and I'm kind of still waiting for the kinks to be worked out. I will check out I will talk to the developer a little bit later. But if we want to copy a plugin, then all we have to do is literally option drag it. To make this easy visually, I would go into the mixer personally, all right? And then let's say I need another channel strip to show you the example. Well, I don't want to use the click track, so let me go back to the tracks mixer. I'm going to duplicate this track just so I can show you my example. There's 100 ways to do it. Why don't I just double click the track header? That's everything in this column here. So I'm going to double click now. And then what will happen is that whatever track is currently selected, you will create a track in the vein of whatever it is that is currently selected. So I had the software instrument track selected. As soon as I double click the track header, I duplicated a software instrument track. So when I shift click both of these tracks 6 and 7, I go into the mixer. Guess what? If I option drag this over, now we're in business, right? We're copying. There's better ways to do this. If you go into the channel strip settings, you can also click there, go to the very top and say, hey, can you copy the channel strip settings, please? And then go to the track that you would like to paste those to, click on the channel strip settings. You could say, hey, can you paste the plugins only? And then just like that, we are moving and shaking. Cool. 552, loving it. What else you got for me? Give me some. Want to bypass? I already talked to you about that. Basically, you don't want to remove the plugin, but you'd like to turn it off. This is almost like a maybe move, right? I'm just kind of like, I'm standing by to make sure this is something I want to do, right? Of course, we can bypass within the plugin window as well. I think these are obvious things for most of us. Hold on. There was something there. Okay. If you would like to utilize the quick sampler plugin, you can also use this. So this is a software instrument that contains um, audio files that are kind of are outside of the session. Um, let's see how this breaks it up. It's kind of interesting that it's just like bringing it up out of nowhere. I'm trying to see what the overall context is. Yeah, it's just literally bringing it up. Okay, well, we have a couple different samplers. I guess I'll contextualize it this way for you. And we have the quick sampler, which is really great for single files. If any of you have used Ableton, you want to think about simpler, right? This is the equivalent, really powerful, really nice. When you do drag in these files, it gives you two options, and I guess I kind of have to show you now. Let's say I want to take this file right here, my good friends. Okay, this one, the one I'm literally holding, and I want to drag it in here. You can see it says quick sampler. So it's asking, hey, do you want to use original or optimized? This is new to 10.6, just to be clear. What ends up happening here is if you use original, you're using the original tuning, loudness, the loop, and then the length of the content. Where if you happen to use optimized, which is a more refined selection, you can then analyze the content. You can optimize its tuning, its loudness, right? It searches for these loop points for you, and then it cuts silence. Probably a very condensed way of looking at this is, hey, if you like the sound of it, if you dig what you're dragging in, just use original. But if it needs some improvements, maybe it has some dead space or something like that, maybe it's really quiet, you might want to use quick sampler. 554, Alchemy. The same goes here, my good friends. We can actually use an Alchemy plugin. Now, what's fascinating is we have three options: additive, granular, and spectral. And I'm happy to go over this in a later session, but I just want to make sure that we make time for what's here and what's available. So we have one sampler, two samplers, and then another in Drum Machine Designer. Now, each one of these samplers has its own pros and cons. Pros and cons. Quick sampler, really easy to use, the fastest. You have other features which you can't get in the other samplers, such as slicing mode, right? There's a lot of very cool things that you could do in here. All right. Some of the drawbacks is you don't have the ability to synthesize the sounds, such as you can do within Alchemy. All right. So Alchemy, you have all this other stuff that you can do. It's more robust. The cons, if you don't know it, you're going to get lost, right? Drum Machine Designer gives you more flexibility still. Why? It creates zones using the sliced audio content and a MIDI region to trigger the slices. When you drag multiple audio files, each one is placed on its own pad. So, yeah, this is actually probably worth looking at. Let's, what are we listening to here? Yeah, I guess just for now. If I drag this into Drum Machine Designer, it's just one track, okay? You can see that it sliced everything for me. So right now, I'm going to play my MIDI keyboard, which you will see within this keyboard here. And you'll see that it's all sliced up. Again, think Ableton sampler, right? So now I'm creating something different. Right? So I took the sounds in essence and we created a very cut up version of the original so that we could then create our own performance. So that's one methodology. Let me hit Command Z here to undo all this. If I then take multiple sound sources across a drum machine, what you'll find is that the program will do something very interesting. Let me make sure I did that right. I'm not sure if I did. Yeah, there it goes, I think. Yep, there it goes. Okay, now then, it then took the loops and put them into an individual sample or MIDI note. In this case, C3. Okay, so then now when I play C3, look what happens. Wait, is that C3? Or is it? Oh, I'm sorry, C1. It's right here on the left-hand side. That's the input. So C1 is here. C sharp is here. D is here. And I'm controlling the parts by hitting the appropriate sample. So that is wild. I mean, you talk about, that's wicked. How it even knows to do that. That is really profound and really powerful. So great stuff. Again, we talked about how to get a sampler to work. We can also, inside a drummer, I should have said that. Let's say you were really feeling this part right here. You can literally just drag it in from the loop browser, just like that. See, now it's here. Now, again, it shouldn't be, let me see, let me try and get this to play. Where's my, so that's playing in classic mode, which means when I hit the MIDI button, you're going to hear it. And when I let go, you're not. One shot lets you hear it all the way out. Okay, let me go ahead and cut that really quick. It's playing all the way out, regardless if I mute it or not. Okay, so now we don't have to do that, right? We can click here. Let me change my view here and change this into the slice mode now. So I have 3 modes within one MIDI note. This is insane, the power that can be accomplished here, right? The power that you have here. So then on top of the main, we have the Q sampler detail, which you can add LFOs, you can play with pitch, filter, all sorts of stuff. But hold on, you actually have pad commands. So if I wanted to change this, let's talk about the pitch. It really is remarkable. Really, really good stuff. Okay, that is good. If you want to activate plugins on inactive channels, this only applies if you have only load plugins needed for project playback. Where is this located, by the way? I think it's in the project settings under general. Yeah, only plugins loaded. So this is great if you use a template. Then it's going to have this on, because if you're not utilizing, let's say you have a composer's template, like, flutes and, timpanis and percussion, all this stuff, it's only going to turn on the plugins that are currently being utilized. So that's a really efficient way of opening up sessions. For those of you that have been, around Logic 9 and before, you know what I'm talking about. It would take forever to have to load a lengthy session, right? So how do I activate these? Well, you basically add a plugin, or you click on a plugin, and what do they look like? What do these inactive channel strips look? I don't have one here for you, my good friends, but it's quite literally just like muted out, like it's completely blurred out. Okay. Hey guys, I will be right back. My assistant here, let's take a quick break. We'll take a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Hey, how you doing? Okay, guys. I want to wrap this up. got my assistant here, so we're going to finish up the day. All right, so 554, we know how to activate plugins. Great stuff. It looks like you can also click on a plugin slot on an inactive channel strip and select activate plugins from the pop-up menu. So if you had that feature on and something is blurry, click on the plugin itself and then hit activate plugins. All right, awesome. All right, so it looks like we start getting into EQing. What it is, what does it do? It says here that in most mixing situations it's used as the first effect, allowing you to shape the sound of an individual channel strip. So please don't take this for face value. You're not always going to use an EQ on the first channel strip. This only applies to certain situations. But if you need some ground rules, if you need a good rule of thumb, please take it on. What is it used for? Tone shaping predominantly. It could be on a track. It could be on the overall project, however you want to do it. It is recommended that you use this before applying other effects. Of course, there are no primary rules, just some suggestions here. The graphic controls make it easy to view and change the audio signal in real time. So I'm going to keep looking here to see if there's anything else. Yeah, we're going to start going into the EQ in a deep way. Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to call it there. I wanted to thank you for this opportunity to serve. Man, I feel really good about this project. We're on page 555. Thank you so much for just allowing a space and a platform. I really do feel honored. Hold on, let me stop my share. Am I looking at you guys? Where are you? Did I? I think I might have quit that. No, I think we're here. Yeah, here we go. All right. Thank you very much. Have yourselves a happy Wednesday. I want you to stay happy. I want you to stay up. And as always, keep learning, keep growing, keep evolving, and keep your frequency high. Let's go.